Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. Today, we're going to look at the new moon that's coming up on March 10th, 2024. We're going to take a look at each life path number for the energies that could surface around this illumination. Before we get into the forecast, this, of course, is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, where we'll take a look at your own personal numerology, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. I'd love to work with you. All right, let's take a look. Life Path 33-6. So you all are going to be working with the energy of the 36-9 and donkey energy. And it's interesting because donkey came up recently. I don't know if it was for you all or not, but it definitely correlates with this energy beautifully. So let's talk about it. So first with donkey energy, I would say with this energy coming through, there's definitely a call here for patience. Whatever you initiate at this time under this new moon, there needs to be the element of patience. You need to be patient with yourself, patient with others, and patient with the universe. Don't try to rush through whatever this is. This is going to be something that's going to require steadfastness, persistence, and patience. Also, I would say with donkey energy coming through, pay attention to the areas in your life where your stubbornness is creating discord, right? Where it is that maybe you're a little too rigid in your thoughts, in your actions, in how you're showing up to relationships or connections, where it is that, that stubbornness kicks in, and where can you be a little bit less stubborn? Where can you compromise? Where can you meet people in the middle? Or meet people where they're at, right? You might need something from someone or want something from someone, but they're not capable of giving it to you. And instead of seeing that as, a personal attack or, against you or whatever the case might be, this would be a time to swallow any pride or any stubbornness and compromise and just meet that person where they're at and make adjustments accordingly without sacrifice, of course. But definitely, any area of your life where it is that you're showing up in stubbornness, just be mindful of that. And I think it'll be highlighted for you around this time to work through that so that you can be a little bit less rigid in that area. And we all have areas where we're stubborn. We all have areas where we are a little rigid in our thoughts or our behaviors or whatever the case may be. So it's certainly not just, for you all. But this new moon could show you where it is that you need to be a little bit more flexible, right? And that can also be with yourself, right? If you're like really hard on yourself all the time, this can be a time where it's like you really need to give yourself grace. And I would say just continue to take that grace even further. So grace for self, grace for others, grace for the universe. Now, with the 36-9 energy, this energy requires determination. So you're going to have to focus your energy into something. You're going to have to commit to it and see it through to completion until the obstacle is overcome. And it does feel like some sort of an obstacle. It could be like you're standing in your own way or you're tripping yourself up when it comes to whatever this is through, again, like self-defeating thoughts or behaviors. So pay attention to that as well. It might not be an actual physical person or physical obstacle standing in your way. It might be yourself. So, and with donkey energy coming through, that kind of makes sense. So it could be something where you're kind of your own worst enemy when it comes to whatever this is. And that doesn't mean like, beat yourself up about it. Quite the opposite. It means, give yourself some grace and figure out how to be a little bit more lenient and a little bit more flexible. Because once you figure that out, then you can overcome this obstacle and things will start to flow. But again, it could be that there's an area where you have created the self-imposed prison or your stubbornness is holding you back or keeping you from what's yours, right? Also, I would say that this energy really does ask us to tap into and pull from our spiritual resources and our spiritual connectivity, especially because it's 9 energy. We're working with Pisces energy. This new moon is happening in the sign of Pisces. So there's a lot here where the veil is thin for you all. which it is normally anyway, but it really is quite thin at this time around this new moon. So it could feel very abstract, very ethereal, very like imaginative. Where it might not feel real solid and tangible at this time, but you're really meant to play in that, like be open to it, right? Not to the point where you completely, come off the ground type of thing. There needs to be a groundedness to this, but there's definitely something here where you may need to, in order to overcome some of these obstacles that are kind of keeping you stuck, tap into that spiritual essence, tap into that spiritual connectivity, because that will sort of bring the light to, the shadow side, or the shadows that you might be facing. Not to sound too, cliche, but also I would say if you've been carrying a heavy burden at this time, and this also ties in really beautifully with donkey energy, because you think about donkeys, a lot of times they're used for labor, right? They carry large loads like up mountains and, just a lot, right? And so if you have been carrying a heavy burden, and this can be emotional, this can be physical, this can be whatever, however spiritual, however it comes in for you. But if there is something that has just been really burdening your heart for quite some time, or recently, you might find ways now to set it down, and or to ask for help and support, and release any sort of martyrdom that might be tied to it, right? A lot of times when we carry something, when we overburden ourselves, it's not because we need to. It's because we feel we need to. And so we step into some degree of martyrdom. And martyrdom is actually very disempowering for self and for others, whoever it is that we're trying to carry their burden, their load. It actually becomes disempowering to that person, because we're saying, you're not capable of doing this yourself, so let me do it for you. So just be really careful about any burden that you take on that is not yours to carry. Also, I would say if something has happened to you that was out of your hands, out of your control, that has created heaviness for you, like heaviness on your heart or just a heavy burden, then I would say continue to find ways to release it back to the universe, right? Because a lot of times when something happens that's out of our control, it's divine intervention. There's a higher purpose to it, even if we don't understand it. And we're not meant to take on a burden around that. We're meant to extract the wisdom from that experience, no matter how difficult. And when we're working with 9 energy, it just becomes that much more potent, because again, this is a very spiritually connected type of energy. So there's something here where you might find that you're able to release that heavy burden, or at least make it lighter, or at least if you're not ready to release it just yet, you can set it down for a minute. You can set it down and breathe and just find that space, to just feel what it feels like to release it. You can pick it back up if you're not ready to fully release it yet, but this could be a time where you find the way to set it down and ask for the help and support that you need in order to release it. Or again, set it down. Let somebody else carry it for a little while. You probably have people who would be very willing to do that, or to help you to carry it for a period of time. So just be open to what's available to you. So this can be a very freeing energy as well, because you're not meant to carry it alone, right? Like that's something I just want to make very clear. Like we're not meant to do this journey alone. I know we come here alone, like we leave alone, but we're not meant to do the journey alone. And sometimes it can feel like we are meant to do that. There's some things we do have to carry, but there's some things that we can certainly ask for help for. And this, whatever this is, this would be something that you can ask for help for, at least if it's just for a little while, to get that reprieve of setting it down. This is also a leadership type of energy that asks us to lead with kindness and understanding, with the goal of uplifting others, which we can't do if we're too heavenly burdened ourselves. So we need to start there, right? By releasing our own burdens through healthy ways, we can actually help to support and uplift others, which is such a 9 type of energy, and also a very 33-6 type of energy as well. So a lot here about really stepping into that leadership role, but doing so with kindness and compassion, and understanding that in order to fully step into it, you've got to release some of those burdens that are weighing you down. And it's not going to happen overnight, but you can certainly take baby steps, right? And start that process. And I would also say, don't be too stubborn in holding on to that burden, right? I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but there's times when we get so used to that burden and carrying it that when we release it, we lose sort of, it feels like we lose a part of ourselves. So it's kind of creates another grieving process that we need to move through. So just be really gentle with yourself, be very gracious with yourself during this new moon, because I do think it can be highly sensitive. I do think there could be some things that you're asked to kind of move through that will help to lighten the load, so to speak. So very sensitive, very intuitive, very ethereal type of energy. Follow your intuition, follow your heart as always. But this is going to be, I think, a time for release. And I know we talk a lot about release a lot of times, but with a 9 cycle and donkey energy coming through, this is a release that has probably been building and really needs to happen. And this energy is very supportive to help you to do that so that you can move forward much lighter, right? And so that then you can start to, step into that leadership role of, being that spiritual leader, which 33-6 energy really is. So when it's in its higher octave, but you can't do that when you're heavily burdened. So lots of energy for you all 33-6s. I feel like that's the name of the game every time I do a reading for you all, but, big energy, big energy. So I hope it's a beautiful one. Take care. Bye for now.